Thumbs up. Are we good on IT? Thumbs up. Okay.
I'm just hearing you now. I'm just able to hear you now.
Okay. So can the people in the room hear me? I'll just make sure I speak up, and the IT people gave me a thumbs up. So thank you very much for coming down tonight to the Ada County Planning and Zoning meeting. As we go through tonight's meeting, we'll have several items on the agenda, and we'll ask the staff to present the project, and then we'll ask the applicant to talk about the project. And then we'll open the floor up to people to provide their testimony. Your testimony tonight will be limited to 3 minutes per person. For the people that are up making comments on the application, the applicant has longer and the staff has longer, but we'll be limiting public testimony to 3 minutes per person. And we appreciate that there might be differing opinions in the room, and so we'd ask everybody to maintain respectful of those differing opinions in the room. You know, we all care about where we live, and we care about these kinds of issues, but we need to treat each other respectfully during our public hearings. So now that the meeting is opened, I'm going to call roll. So Brenda Blitman is here. Commissioner Birch?
Here.
Commissioner Exton?
Here.
Commissioner Wickstrom?
Here.
And Commissioner Colson?
Here.
Thank you very much for being here. We're going to do a little bit of work on the agenda to start. We've got several items that have been asked to be tabled, and then we're going to reorganize the agenda a little bit based on some feedback that we've gotten. So I'll open the floor up if one of the commissioners wants to identify the projects that need to be tabled to future meetings. I'd be open to that kind of a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Exton.
I would like to move project 202103209-S-HD to the October 13th, 2022 meeting, as well as 2022-01624-S-VAC to the October 13th, 2022 meeting. And lastly, move project 2022-01728-CPA-ZC-DA-CU-MSP to the October 13th meeting of 2022.
Thank you very much. There's been a motion to move 3 of the projects to the October 13th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wickstrom. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll say aye. Any opposed? And let the minutes reflect that all the commissioners voted to table those 3 projects to the October 13th meeting. I'm going to open up the floor to any motions about reorganizing the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Birch.
I move that we change the order of the agenda so that item number 2006-00071-ZC-DA-M and 2022-01-253-MSP be moved to the end of the agenda, so it will be the last item considered.
Thank you. Is there a second for that motion?
I second it.
Commissioner Colson seconded that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So let the minutes reflect that the project's been moved to the end of the agenda. So the next item on our agenda would be project number 2022-00987. And Mr. Lindstrom, do you want to give us a little update on this project?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're correct. Application 2022-00987-S is before you. I received an email today from the applicant, and I provided you that exhibit in front of you for the record. And that item is being withdrawn by the applicant, and they're looking to refile at a later date. They'll have to do a new neighborhood meeting, and we'll have to renotice the item, but they would like to appeal the highway district's conditions that they were going to put on the project, and unfortunately, the applicant did not appeal in times, for ACHD, so they've got to resubmit and refile. So they're requesting you withdraw the application.
So thank you very much. Does the commission need to make any action on that, or do we just record it in the minutes that it's been withdrawn?
Madam Chair, you would just record in the minutes that it's been withdrawn.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think us talking about it records in the minutes. And
Okay.
so we'll go to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2022-01-433, Gary Holzclaw. And Ms. Sanders is online, and we'll let her present this project. And Eli is doing double duties.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I do have a PowerPoint to show you, so I'll share that. Eli, it's not letting me share.
One moment. All right, should be good to go.
So project number 2022-01433S is a preliminary plat for a two-lot subdivision. The property is located at 2790 South McDermott Road and contains approximately 10 acres in the rural urban transition district. The applicant is Gary Holzclaw. Yes. It's located right on McDermott, north of Victory Road. They're proposing to split it in half. And they do meet the dimensional standards for the R district. They do have some conditions of approval. They will have to submit approval from the Meridian Fire District, and they will have to meet the final plat specifications and submit that within 24 months of the board's approval. Staff is recommending approval of the plat, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the commissioners? I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll ask the applicant to go ahead and come forward, and then we'll come back to you, Ms. Sanders. You get to come
Thank you.
forward, and then you give us your name and your address, and then tell us a little bit about the project or anything that you think that's important for us to know.
Okay, just very simple. I'm Gary Holzclaw. I am the owner of 2790 South McDermott Road. And we're just gonna split it one time into the 2-5, since that's all we can do at the moment. But that's all we're having planned, because we're just trying to build a house there for my son. So it's just gonna be a driveway going back to a house on the northeast corner there. That's all we're planning to do.
So thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Okay. So the way it works is that we'll invite other people to come to talk, and then you get a chance to talk at the end.
Okay.
Okay? So now I've got several people listed under, that want to testify on this project. Pete Brinsenda, is that? I apologize, I can't read it, so.
That's okay, most can.
So give us your name and your address, and then we'll get it in the minutes.
Name's
Thank you.
Pete Resendez, address 7801 East Victory Road, Nampa. Actually, what I've heard right now is sufficient. I'm a little bit disappointed that one of the other projects was actually tabled earlier, as there's a lot of activity in that corner, and I wanted to know what this project was tied into the other projects in the corner of Victory and McDermott, and the impact that that's going to have with the rest of our properties. So I think I'll probably be attending future meetings.
Well, thank you, and you can always reach out to the planning and zoning staff.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you very much for coming. I've got Colton Holzclaw, Debbie Holzclaw. One at a time, if you can just give us your name and address, and then,
That's Debbie, and the other one's Colton Holzclaw.
Okay.
I'm Parker, the
Okay,
next
Parker.
one. I'm the son that's, once, if
so
we
give
can
us your
get
name
the.
and address.
I'm Parker Holzclaw, I live the same address, 2790 South McDermott.
Okay,
That land would be for me and my family to build a house on. So, that's it.
any questions? We're good, thank you very much for coming down. Is there anybody else in the room or online that wants to talk about this project?
There's nobody online.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll go back. Are there any questions for Ms. Sanders?
Nope.
No? The applicant, you get a chance to provide any rebuttals if you want to, but I didn't hear anything to rebut, but it's up to you. It's your opportunity to provide a rebuttal. We're good. You're good. Okay. We're going to close the public hearing. There'll be no more public hearing on this topic, and I'll ask the commissioners for a motion so that we can have discussion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Exton.
based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained herein and the testimony from the public hearing, I'd like to move to recommend approval of project 202201-433-S to the board, subject to the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit A.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Wickstrom seconded the project. What kind of, I'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, it just seems very, a very simple, one-time, split it in half. It still meets all the standards, so I don't see any issues with it.
Okay, any other comments? Let's go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'll say aye. All those opposed say aye. And let the minutes reflect that the 5 commissioners voted for this project, and it's approved. So we'll move on to the next one. It's 2022-01427, Fox Land Surveyors, and Ms. Sanders.
Madam Chair, I do have something to share. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, this project is also for a 2-lot subdivision. The property is located at 2275 East Deer Flat Road and contains 20.23 acres in the rural residential district. The applicant is Rodney Evans and Partners. The property is located right here. City limits is to the northwest, and they are proposing to split it in half. They do meet the dimensional standards, and we have not received any comments in opposition. They will have, we do have to meet the Ada County Surveyor comments, and they will have to meet, identify the easement width of 10 feet shall be on the subdivision boundaries for any utilities, drainage, and irrigation. Staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do the commissioners have any questions? No questions. Okay, I think we'll look for the applicant. Thank you. It looks like the applicant's online.
Yes, the applicant is online and they are here. One
Okay.
moment, please. All right. They can speak now.
Hi, my name is Leslie Prendeville. I'm with Rodney Evans and Partners, located at 1450 West Bannock Street in Boise, 83706. I think Diana summed up the project pretty well. This is a fairly straightforward request. It's approximately 2 10-acre lots. We have not received any site-specific comments from ACHD. As far as we've discussed, is the project meets all standards set forth by the county. The intent is to let the existing residents remain, and the purpose for the second lot would be the construction of a single-family residence. There currently aren't any planned improvements. However, that would be the future use. Irrigation system is to remain, and the owner is in agreement with the conditions of the staff report. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. What questions do the commissioners have?
Madam Chair? Just
Go ahead,
one-
Commissioner
just one
Wickstrom.
quick one. But just really quickly, there was some questions that you had at the neighborhood meeting. Were those addressed and the neighbor put the ease, I guess? about the driveway and getting water to one of the addresses?
I can't necessarily speak to that. Ben Semple in our office has been leading this project. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it to the meeting tonight. I would need to defer to him, but I believe that those have been resolved. As far as my discussion with him has gone, we haven't received anything recently from anyone having any issues. But we can definitely get you additional information following this hearing.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have anybody in the room? I don't have anybody on the list, but anybody in the room or online that would like to talk about this project?
There's nobody else left online for this one.
Okay. Any questions for for Ms. Sanders or for the applicant from us? And so, as the applicant, you get the opportunity to provide any more comments as part of your rebuttal. So if there's anything else you'd like to add, now would be the time to add it.
No, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and then I'll look to one of the commissioners for a motion to move us forward.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wickstrom.
I'd like make a motion to, based on finding of fact and conclusion of law contained herein and the testimony of the public hearing, I recommend approval of project 2022-01-427S to the board, subject to conditions of approval attached in Exhibit A.
Thank you. And there's a seconded by Commissioner Colson. Go ahead, Commissioner Wickstrom, would you like to talk about
It's
it?
like the other one. It's pretty straightforward. There's plenty of room there. It meets all of the requirements. It's consistent with the area.
So any other comments? So I'll call for a motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say aye. And I'll say aye, and let the minutes reflect that all of us voted for this motion and that it be approved. Okay, the next one is 2022-01-561S, and it says Noble John. And I went to school, I'll disclose to the commissioners that I went to school in Cuna, and there were a lot of Nobles at the school that I went to. So I have prior knowledge of this family, but it's not going to affect my decision today. So go ahead, Commissioner Wickstrom. Or, I do that all the time, don't you? I'm sorry.
All good, all good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Application 2022-01-561-S as Noble Landing subdivision. Applicant is Dan Noble. Here is the property we're looking at, general vicinity, off McDermott Road, King Road, kind of southwest of Cuna there. This is another two-lot subdivision, preliminary plat. Property contains 50 acres. It's addressed at 4640 West King Road. It's in the rural residential, or RR district. So the applicant's proposing to split the property into two buildable residential lots. Both lots will be a minimum of 10 acres to meet the RR lot size minimum. Lot 1 will maintain existing access, and then Lot 2 will have frontage and access onto McDermott Road. We found that the subdivision complies with Chapter 8-6 of the Ada County Code, since those lots will meet the dimensional standards. Here you have the future land use map for the Ada County Comp Plan that's been adopted for this area. This site is in agriculture irrigated land. That's what it's designated as, and that is in compliance, or I'm sorry, it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It meets the comp plan essentially. So this property will be 10 acres in size, or each lot will be 10 acres, which is conducive to agricultural uses, and it's compatible with land use map. And we had no agency comments or public comments in opposition, and staff is recommending approval, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Lindstrom? Commissioner Birch.
Mr. Lindstrom, you said each lot would be 10 acres. I thought one lot would be 10 acres and one would be 40 acres. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my mistake. They will both be a minimum of 10 acres,
Okay.
which is required, but yes, you are correct. The 40-acre piece, they're just going to leave that as ag land. They just wanted to separate it from this 10-acre piece to the south.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good questions. Any other questions? So I think we'll go to the applicant, and I think they're online.
Yes. One moment, please. All right, Dan Noble, you can speak now.
Yes, my name is Dan Noble. I live at 204 South Cedar Point Avenue, Nampa, Idaho. And this property has been in the family for a number of years. I'm the trustee of the trust that owns the property. My father passed away in 2020, and there being 15 beneficiaries, it's unfortunate you can't keep it in the family, but you look at what you can do to best maximize the interests of our parents as well as family, and we see the greatest benefit in splitting this property into the 10-acre piece and 40-acre piece, with a family member having some interest in the 40-acre or the 10-acre piece. It is in irrigated ground, it is irrigated property. It'll remain in its present use. There's with the irrigation system that will be shared with the owners of the property and adjoining property. Irrigation easements are in place, and if you have any questions,
Are there
happy to
any
answer them.
questions?
No question, no.
I don't think we have any questions. So,
Thank you.
yeah, if you'll stay on for a minute, we'll see if there's anybody else in the room that has questions or online. Is there anybody in the room who has questions, or anybody online that has questions or wants to provide testimony?
There is nobody else online for this one.
Okay. So there's nobody online or in the room, so any questions to Mr. Lindstrom? No? And the applicant has the last chance to provide any rebuttal, so.
Thank you. I'm not satisfied.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'll close the public testimony, and I'll look to the commissioners for a motion on this project.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Exton.
based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained herein and the testimony from the public hearing, I would like to recommend approval of project number 2022011561-S, subject to the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit A in the preliminary plat received on June 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Colson seconded that motion. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, similar to the other two applications we just saw, this is a very standard, subdivision, meets all the standards. I don't see any issues with this one either.
Any other comments? So I'll go ahead and call for the motion. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and I'll say aye. And all those opposed say aye. Let the minutes reflect that all the commissioners voted for this project, and it's been voted to be approved. So thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to the last item on our agenda tonight, which is project number 2060071, ZCDAM 2022-01253 MSP and PEG Companies. And I want to thank the people in the audience for patiently letting us go through those other projects. We didn't want to have people wait all night for those quick projects. So go ahead, Mr. Lindstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You got that right. This application has two project numbers. The first is 2006-00071-ZC-DA-M and 2022-01253-MSP. Applicant on this project is PEG Companies. So the property that's in question here, it's in southwest Boise area. It's at Lake Hazel 5-mile intersection. So this is a zoning ordinance map amendment, a development agreement modification, and master site plan application to rezone an 11.4 acre property from the commercial C2 district and the medium high density residential R8 district to the high density residential R12 district and develop a 130 unit multifamily development. Property is address 10975 West Lake Hazel Road. So back in 2006, the Board of County Commissioners approved of Hazelwood Village Development, known as application 2006-00071. This was Hazelwood Village was in the Planned Unit Development Overlay District, which allows flexibility in site design and dimensional standards. And so since 2006, the property has been zoned as the C2 commercial zoning and has sat vacant since then. The applicant proposes to rezone it now to the R12 district. There's two parcels in question here. There's the larger parcel, which is 11.23 acres. That's currently the C2 commercial district. Then there's a small little sliver of a parcel along the lateral there on the very western property boundary. That's 0.17 acres. And so that's currently the R8 zone. So together, they would be rezoned to the R12. In addition, the development agreement modification has been submitted to alter the site plan and change the zoning of the existing development agreement that took place in 2006. So the rezone and the modification is alongside the master site plan, as I stated. That's for a multifamily development known as Alante Homes at Lockwood. As noted in the applicant's detail letter, they propose 130 units at a density of 10.98 units per acre. The proposed site plan, as you see here, has 51 bedroom, 63 two bedroom, and 17 three bedroom homes or units. It'll be a mix of attached and detached homes, each with a private yard, patio, and then sustainable, water conscious, low maintenance landscaping. The site plan also proposes a private park with a community clubhouse and pool. And then pathways will connect and loop throughout the projects. The applicant has also planned to continue the existing pathway at the southwest corner of the site along the boundary of the Cunningham lateral. And then all units will be leased moving forward by the PEG property group. So in conjunction with the master site plan, it's required that a landscaping plan is submitted as well as a parking plan. We found that both comply with the Ada County Code. It was required that open space is a part of the plan, and the applicant has provided 48% of the site as open space, which exceeds the 30% requirement. And then in addition, there's a proposed 297 parking spaces, which exceeds the 268 parking space total. And this includes 42 enclosed garage spaces as well as ADA spaces. There is a lighting plan component for any outdoor lights that are proposed on the property. The applicant has chosen to defer this item. It'll be a condition of approval that you see in your findings that they have to come back and submit a lighting plan before they receive final approval. All units will be served by Boise Sewer and Veolia Water, and it's a condition that they provide a will serve letter from Veolia, which used to be Suez. So with this project, as you probably saw in your staff report, we have significant amount of comments from the public in opposition. There is agency comments, so the Southwest Ada County Alliance, as well as the City of Boise, they're both opposed to this project. Here are some concerns raised. This is a summary of those concerns. In general, I think the overwhelming concern was, the neighbors in the area, they just would like to see this site remain commercial. There were things brought up that they'd like to see restaurants or additional grocery stores or retail, big box retail. So a number of different things. There was also concerns with this just being an apartment style living situation with renters coming and going. And then along with that, increase in traffic, noise, things of that nature. Then also, there was just a concern too from the Ada County Alliance. They would like to see more connectivity through this area in general from properties to the north that are zoned commercial. So in general, those are some of the main concerns. The City of Boise, as I mentioned, they're also opposed. They would like to see this site actually be even higher density than what is proposed. but also a mix of uses. So they'd like to see something like live-work units, if you're familiar with those, high density above, and then commercial space below. And then the highway district, they were not opposed to the project, but they did have some site-specific conditions of approval that are in their report. One of those is they would like an additional access or a driveway aisle coming off of 5 Mile on the eastern property boundary. The applicant has stated that they're working with ACHD, and they would like to get through this commission meeting before they move forward with any ACHD's comments or standards. So in addition, let's see here. So Ada County Community and Regional Planner Brent Moore noted that the future land use map of the Boise Comp Plan, as adopted by Ada County, designates this site, as you see here on your screen, as mixed use, which is intended to include commercial, office, and high-density residential development. The property is also identified as a community activity center, so that little node you see there at this intersection, that's stating that this is a community activity center. And this is just from City of Boise's blueprint for their comp plan. Kind of gives you a rundown of what a community activity center is and what they're looking for. So our comp planner stated that the proposed rezone to the R12 high-density residential district allows for densities up to 12 units per acre, and it's compatible with the future land use map. And as noted previously by the applicant, the site will contain 10.98 dwelling units per acre. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. We found that this application complies with the code, and we'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and let the commissioners ask questions. I've got a couple, if you have questions.
I have a couple. Go ahead and go first.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wickstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's fine.
Go ahead.
Okay. This might seem a little bit of a sidelight here, but under the City of Boise, but the community commercial zoning, they would mention they wanted a higher density up to, was it 20 units per acre? When something like that happens, if the commercial takes up part of it, the amount of land that can be placed into residential can only be on, it's the remainder of whatever is not commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it works? Like say if you've got 10 acres, commercial takes up 3 of the acres, you can only do that high density on the remaining part of it.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, Commissioner Wickstrom, we as staff, we actually met with the City of Boise, following up with their letter. We just wanted to hear them out to see what they were looking for. And they've stated that they just would like to see this site specifically used as mixed use. They would like to see that live-work unit situation, but they did not give any specificities into what, is it 10 acres of the site they want as commercial? Is it 5 acres? Is it the whole thing? So they didn't provide us with much information to go off of. They just stated that they would like to see this site specifically as a mixed-use site.
Okay, and just to follow up, as far as getting an access to 5 Mile, is it too close to that intersection, or is there possibility of actually putting an access on 5 Mile?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, Commissioner Wickstrom, based on the applicant's submittal, they did not feel it would be a good thing to have access off of 5 Mile there with the intersection being close by. That being said, the Highway District, they are the governing body for access and, right-of-way ingress and egress. So it's the Highway District that was actually stating that they would like to see an additional access point for connectivity through this property. So it's more so that the Highway District that would like to see that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Colson, any questions?
I'm good for right now.
Any questions?
I'm good at this moment.
I wondered if you could bring up the vicinity map, and for the benefit of the other commissioners, I live in this area, but for the benefit of
This
people,
one or this one?
the one before that one.
That one.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit, those other 4 corners, what's on the other 4 corners?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So the southwest corner, the corner where this property is, so just to the north, you have some retail there. There's a Zamzow's, there's a dairy, Reed's Dairy, a liquor store, I believe Papa Murphy's, and then you have a coffee shop as well. There's also a convenience store, gas station on that property. And actually, just to the northwest of this site, you'll see it's vacant now, but there was an approved rezone to commercial for this property, as well as a master site plan for and a development agreement for multiple restaurants on this property, as well as retail space and office space. Many of those restaurants, I believe, were the drive-through style, like your McDonald's, if you will. And so that's most of the property to the southwest. The northwest corner, there's a current Walgreens store. There's a ICCU bank that was just approved that's being built. And then I believe there's some more plans for potential commercial in that area, Les Schwab or some sort of tire service center. To the northeast, that corner currently is a McDonald's. It was approved. I believe it went through you guys. And then there's also plans for another future commercial retail store next to that McDonald's. I don't believe anything's been built at this time. Yeah, I definitely know that. I just drove by there. And then to the southeast corner, you have an existing Albertsons with a library there, as well as a small three-wood pizza pub and grill. And then there's an existing primary health facility and a taco truck and a gas station. So hopefully that sums it up.
Thank you very much. It kind of gives us a feel for the whole neighborhood. I wonder if you can go back to the actual site plan, if you could point out to me where the private park is. Because I didn't find it when I was looking.
So the this area here, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you see that? So that area, that's where this is a proposed clubhouse pool area. That's where the kind of the center of this development will be. And then open space is kind of throughout. They don't have a specific like large park proposed. Hazelwood Village, they have some more park open space close by. And this is a part of the overall Hazelwood development. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So there isn't, when they talk about park space, they were talking about the open space that's around the units, not necessarily a place that people could go and play.
Correct, yeah. And and when I stated that, I mean, that was from the applicant's detailed letter, so I might have the
They could
applicant provide more
Yeah,
testimony.
I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed that.
Yep.
How many stories are they?
Yeah, so this is, Madam Chair, this is a horizontal style apartment complex, if you will. So these are all single units. I believe that in the, actually, let me go here. I have it pulled up. We can see, there is an exhibit in your plans where you can see each of the proposed plans for the units. So here's Unit A plan, just a single story. Next one here. Also, this is the attached prototype, looks like. Maybe not. No, just, oh, yep, it is. So attached, or like a duplex, if you will. Same here, another plan. This is, so there is, one of the plans here shows it looks like 2 stories.
Okay.
Here's the last one. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one of the prototypes is a 2-story, and I'm sure the applicant can go into a little more detail on that as well.
That's fine. So what other zoning uses are allowed in the C2 zone? So if it was zone C2, what kinds of commercial properties are allowed in that zoning?
Yeah, you bet. The C2, so this is more of the community commercial, and so it's going to be focused on the community as a whole, not necessarily just the neighborhood. So we're going to see anything from Albertsons, a lot of those properties next door are zone C2, so you could have everything from a big box store, or a larger grocery store, to a smaller convenience store, your fast food drive-throughs, to restaurants, office space. I mean, really anything that you can think of that's commercial, there's a good chance it's allowed in that C2 zone.
Like daycares?
Yeah, and those daycares is like, I mean, there are uses that are allowed in the R12 zone that are also allowed in the C2, like a daycare, I believe. But yeah, C2 is definitely focused towards commercial.
Okay. The traffic report came back as E, which is better than F, so that means there's capacity on the streets, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then there were some comments about the connectivity to get to the next subdivision's irrigation water. And is that something that the applicant can answer for me?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that's probably best.
Okay. Okay, that's my list.
Okay.
So any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and ask the applicant to come forward. Is the applicant online or in person?
The applicant should be in person.
Okay, super.
And the applicant has a presentation they provided. We're going to add this as an exhibit for the record, and this will be exhibit number 49.
And thank you very much, and we're going to have a 15-minute limit on this first part.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time this evening. My name is Bonnie Layton. I am a senior planner with NV5. We're the engineering firm that is responsible for the project. I'm here tonight on behalf of PEG Companies, representing the project. I'll do the first portion of the project, and then David Bourne with PEG Companies will come up and give you a little bit of information about who PEG Companies is and what we're trying to do here. So again, thank you for your time this evening, and I want to thank staff for all of their help as well. I know that we've got what we believe is a really great project to bring forward as part of the county, and understand that there are some concerns, so we'll try to answer those this evening for you. If you could flip ahead, thank you. So as you'll see on your screen, this is just a vicinity map of where the project is located. We're kind of in between the city limits of the city of Meridian, and there's a little bit of city limits of Boise kind of right on the east end of that slide. It's largely developed out in this area, mostly lower density residential. Next slide, please. This vicinity map actually shows you what subdivisions are existing in the area. So we're the little blue rectangle there. And as Connor mentioned, we are just south of the intersection at Lake Hazel and 5 Mile Road. Next slide, please. So in looking at this project and reviewing some of the comments that we did receive from the city of Boise and from some other folks, we really wanted to go back and look at the context of what this project, where it's located. So in the comprehensive plan, Blueprint Boise, they actually discuss this specific intersection. I think you saw some slides from Connor. And we understand that there's a desire to have some additional commercial out in that area. It has been developed over the years. To the north, there's a project that just is under construction. As Connor mentioned, to the south of Lake Hazel, there was recently a rezone project that was, the project was granted an extension. On the southeast corner, we've got Albertsons and a newly constructed McDonald's on the northeast corner of the intersection. Next slide, please. So the area that we're looking at, according to the comp plan for the city of Boise, encompasses 10 square miles. That's one of the largest in the city. Out of that, and as you maybe saw on the previous, one of my previous slides, there's 6% vacant land available to develop out there. So most of it's been developed out largely at a lower density. 94% of that land is developed as single-family residential. And you'll see in the next slide, but according to the City of Boise's Neighborhood Almanac, excuse me, that's 1.78 dwelling units per acre out there. So we're pretty low density for the area in general. And in terms of providing a product mix of housing out there, We have 14% renters according to the Almanac, which is well below the citywide average of 35% renters. So if you're out there, you're likely in a single-family home that you own, very different than the demographics. Next slide, please. That are some of the averages. So we said, how do we fit in to this, the context of this area and then the context of the city as a larger whole? And when we looked at that, we took the information from the Almanac and distilled it down and sort of went through the process of what's appropriate for this. We understand there's a desire for commercial. Commercial is driven by number of rooftops and density. Currently, there's very low density that happens out there. I happen to live in Harris Ranch. That's a lot higher density, and I've had the fortune of watching that develop over the years, and really the commercial without having those rooftops has really struggled. Just now, after 20 years or more of watching that, it's starting to come to life, but that's really driven by the rooftops. Next slide, please. So in the area demographics, this is sorted out according to the Almanac. The orange line is the highest density area. If you think the north end of Boise is kind of the gold standard of walkability, commercial, mixed use, that's the blue line. And then where we fit in down at the bottom. So in this area of town, there is really a very low density and a low population base. So in order to support any viable commercial, we really need to bring rooftops and density to this area. It will make the viability of the other parcels much more attractive to commercial developers. Next slide, please. The Chairman Blitman, you had asked about what are the other uses. So what we did in looking at this area and what's available, on this slide shows that we have in the northwest corner, we've got the Walgreens, which is 1.74 acres. Hubble Homes came in with a development that added to that commercial acreage, and the 1.48 acres is where the bank is being built, and that there's some available pads. On the northeast corner of this intersection, a newly constructed McDonald's. You'll notice in the original comprehensive plan, this was actually zoned residential, designated. It wasn't designated as mixed use. I don't know why that was. It seems appropriate that commercial at this McDonald's location, as well as the two parcels north of that, would also be commercial. That's on the going to Boise side of the road. And it's also separated. There's a canal there that nicely separates the two uses. So there's potential for future commercial development in that northeast quadrant. And then we've got the Albertsons, as Connor mentioned. So most of it's developed out. The 0.89 acres is a pad site that is available. It is for sale. Currently, there's a taco truck that operates on there. Maybe eventually there will be a bricks and mortar sit-down restaurant once we get some more rooftops in the area. And then to the north of our project, Connor mentioned those uses and the plat that was recently extended. So in the entire surrounding, there's 5.13 acres in the northeast corner, 7.03 in the northwest, 5.73 in the northeast corner, 8.8 acres, excluding our property, that's available for commercial development, and another 8.02, which encompasses the Albertsons location. So quite a significant amount of commercial property available for development, but what we don't see is the mix of uses in terms of density. So that's really where we're coming from. Next slide, please. So I won't spend too much time on this slide, but Connor went through the particulars of our application. One thing to note is while Lake Hazel it runs east-west and has been developed out, 5 Mile ends at the canal. So that's a dirt road that you drive up to and make the loop around. Future connections are probably decades out. And so we're really looking at what can we do to create residential activity in this area to make that node more of a mixed use and viable for commercial. 5 Mile, really quickly, because I do want to turn the time over to David. So you asked about 5 Mile interchange. We did, or intersection, or access to it. We had designed per the 2018 design standards that ACHD had adopted. So they came back later and said, well, we're reconsidering this intersection and maybe moving an entrance. Their original plan didn't show that. We're agreeable to work with them on that, but we wanted to get a little bit farther down the road before making any of those changes. Let's see. We've got some slides that show the next slide, please. So that's 5 Mile. And the next slide is Lockwood. So right now, there's a landscape buffer for the residents to the south of us. We plan to have something very similar to what exists on the south side of Lockwood. Pathways and pedestrian connection, I know that was brought up. If you could scroll to the next slide, please. So there's a pathway system that goes through Hazelwood. We would be connecting to that, and then to the north of us with that project, the commercial project that was just approved, also has a connection along that canal on the west side. So we're connecting into that, as well as providing a pedestrian connection shown in the red dashes that so would go along our western boundary, and then cut diagonally to the northeast to provide pedestrian access over to the commercial pads as well that are north of our site. Site plan, next one, please. So this is an exhibit that shows the amenities. You were asking about open space, so our clubhouse is really a key focal point. It's also where our leasing office will be. So we'll have on-site management. We manage this. Peg Companies is vertically integrated, so everything from build to full lease out and management, that is the business model for this. And it'll have a clubhouse that's highly amenitized, a swimming pool. We have pathways that are interconnected throughout the site, walking pathways. We've got a park in the northeast corner that has some exercise amenities. So really trying to create an active space for our residents, as well as providing connectivity for the neighbors adjacent to us. Next slide. This shows a zoom in of what the residents will look like together. So in the backyards, we'll have private patio spaces that are water-wise designed. Pathways that go throughout, highly landscaped, comfortable, very pedestrian friendly. Connor scrolled through some of the floor plans and elevations. I'm happy to cover those in more detail if you'd like, but for the sake of time, I will skip ahead and turn it over to David Bourne. He is the Director of Investments for Peg Companies. So, thank you.
Thank you. My name is David Bourne. I work for Peg Companies, 145 West, 200 North, Provo, Utah. I appreciate your time. Connor, I'm going to flip through these slides relatively quickly. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time here. If you want, I think we've already gone through some of the images of the exact renderings we're submitting, so we can probably flip through some of these unless anybody has questions, and we can pause and stop and walk through them. I think Ms. Layton did a good job of explaining the product type and what we're looking for. Peg Companies is an almost 20-year-old company, but the Alante brand was developed specifically for this product type. And we can go one more right there. So the goal is to provide refined rental living to those with discerning taste. You can go to the next one. The 5 pillars of Alante Homes is no one above or below you. As Ms. Layton mentioned, this isn't a traditional multifamily unit where we are going up. We are going horizontal so people have their own sense of belonging to their home and privacy. Superior finishes, a sense of community, a premium amenity package, and convenient living. This is a premium product, but it is affordable when compared to what it costs to put a down payment and a mortgage today, especially with the increased rental or interest rates. We are, and I say that only to say the our target market are people who are choosing to live here, not coming here because this is the only affordable option. We are trying to provide a premium product that enhances the neighborhood and provides a good place for them to live. One of the things I want to bring up that, and Connor, I might have misunderstood, but one of the things that was brought up about the amenity package was access to the Lake Hazelwood Village parks and park system. I don't believe that is accurate. While this is within the Lake Hazel Master Plan community, we're not part of the Lake Hazel HOA system, and as such, our residents will not have access to their parks. So we have tried to create an amenity package that would be sufficient for them to provide most of their needs met within the community. Ms. Layton mentioned the clubhouse, the pool, a walking trail that would be in excess of half a mile, as well as open space, tot lots, a dog park, so all of their needs are met without having to go outside of that. You can keep going. As I mentioned, Peg Companies is just shy of 20 years old. I mentioned that just to say we are an experienced developer. Our founder is from Aramo, Idaho. He prides himself on being a dairy farmer and bringing that level of work ethic to the office. It doesn't matter what time I get in the morning, he's there first, and he's always there when I leave. We also, if you can go down one more, we're a full-service real estate company, as Ms. Layton mentioned. We aren't just looking to buy, build, and then sell and get out. We also have our own in-house property management group, which we feel provides us a competitive advantage. For this, does that mean I'm done? Okay.
Go ahead, you can wrap up. And then
Okay, I'll wrap up really fast. Our plan is to buy, build, and then maintain it. And I wanted to just, and then we can wrap up quickly, just a few notable projects that we've done so you know that we're not some fly-by-night shoddy developer. We have built the Hyatt Place right here in downtown Boise around the corner. We've built a number of other hospitality, office spaces, commercial, industrial, and restaurants throughout the country. And we have a number of awards that would say some people think we do an okay job. I appreciate your time tonight, and we're available for any other questions.
Thank you. What questions do the commissioners have? I would like to know where the tot lots are and
So right now, if we can bring up the site plan.
the dog park. Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to know where the tot lots are and the dog park.
Okay, so the tot lot, I'm just going to walk over there, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Clubhouse is here, the pool's here. Right now, the tot lot and the dog park are kind of there. We're discerning where they're going to be in here. And there's also some internal fighting within the company that we won't bore anybody who here, where exactly the dog park should go here.
Okay.
We've also some thoughts about putting it on another location.
So I didn't miss them. They're just not quite there yet.
Some of them are defined more well than others.
Yes, okay. What are the questions? Any questions? The applicant gets an opportunity at the very end to provide their rebuttal, and so then we're going to go ahead and open it up for other people
Okay.
to talk.
Thank you.
For coming. Okay, I'm going to go with the people that signed up before. So this list is who I'm going to go with first. And so, how many people do we have? Do you know who your people are online?
We have two, yes.
Okay.
We have David Grace and Andrew Graff.
Okay, let's take David Grace first, and then we'll take Andrew. And David, if you can give us your name and address when you start, that would be great.
You should be able to speak now, David.
Can you guys see me?
We can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was video. I apologize.
That's okay.
Before I start, I just wanted to clarify something. When I called your guys' office, I was told we would be able to make a statement and ask questions directly to PEG companies. Is that the case, or?
Public hearings don't work where you can ask questions directly to the applicant. There usually are community meetings where that happens, and so those questions, you can ask us questions that we probably won't know the answer to, and we won't answer back. So it's not a question and answer situation, but you're welcome to give us any of your statements, and you're welcome to say, this is what I'm wondering about.
So who will we get answers to our questions from directly? I'm just curious.
This is a process where we take information from the public, and then you're welcome to call the planning and zoning staff tomorrow and see if they can help put you in touch with the people for the answers.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is David Grace. I live at 6587 South Plumdale Way. I'm pretty confident I'm the closest person here tonight to this proposed apartment complex, 130 units. I'm pretty confident. I know I speak for hundreds of other Hazelwood Village homeowners who oppose this amendment application. When my family moved into Hazelwood Village back in fall of 2018, we moved under the understanding and expectation that this 11.4 acre lot that sits roughly 100 yards from my home was zoned specifically for commercial and not residential use, and especially not multifamily apartment units. My specific section of Hazelwood Village would be the most impacted by this unpopular and reckless decision, given that it would inevitably lead to higher traffic, parking congestion, higher density, and a decrease in home property value. I assume I speak for many people here that we moved to this area to have lower density. That's what we wanted. That's why you move to the suburbs. According to the PEGS company's own website, they're also planning, if they haven't already done so, to purchase a separate additional 11.2 acre lot adjacent to the already 10975 West Lake Hazel property from the same seller for the development of rent patio homes. So to clarify, PEG Companies is planning multifamily units on two separate 11 plus acre lots. That said, the vast majority of any household has at least 1 to 2 vehicles per household, sometimes 3. If this amendment gets approved and the plans for the adjacent lot are also approved, we're looking at anywhere between 200 to 250 new households just at the corner of Lake Hazel and 5 Mile, which would then lead to anywhere between 400 to 500 additional vehicles in that same small area. This is unacceptable and unsustainable. Furthermore, schools in that area, for example, Lake Hazel Middle, Lake Hazel Elementary, Christine Donnell, Desert Sage Elementary, Amity Elementary, Hillsdale, etc., are already overcrowded, underfunded, and understaffed. What do we think is going to happen when we add hundreds of new students to an already
So, Mr.
under-resourced
Grace,
school?
we've
Yes.
gone over your 3 minutes, so if you wouldn't mind just doing a quick wrap-up for us, that would be great.
Oh, I thought my time wouldn't start because I was asking those clarifying questions. I apologize. Teachers will, putting aside those clear inevitable consequences for approving this application, the reality is that the residents of Hazelwood Village built or purchased their homes with the aforementioned expectations and understanding, and to deviate from that without Hazelwood's consent and blessing would not only be highly unethical in my opinion, but clearly interpreted as purchasing under false pretenses. I again urge this board to reject this application, as no one would directly be impacted by this decision. So no one who would directly be impacted by this decision wants it or believes it would benefit our neighborhood, schools, or community in any way. I look forward to a fair and practical resolution to this matter and hope the ultimate decision will be in the best interests of the City Council's constituents and not special interest groups. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and go to Mr. Graff, Andrew, on online WebEx.
One moment.
So we'll get him.
Mr. Graff, you can speak now.
All right, thank you. My name's Andrew Graff, and I live in Hazelwood Village at 11018 West Oleana Drive. My wife and I object to the proposal to build the high-density housing on the parcel of land north of West Lockwood Street. As part of our search for a new home, we took into consideration the designation of empty land around the neighborhood and decided that we liked the fact that this parcel of land was zoned for commercial use, and we're looking forward to its use as such. Having businesses within reasonable distance to our home is part of our buying decision, and those businesses also help to provide products and services to the communities around them and within reasonable commuting distance. The Southwest Ada County area has a serious need for more commercial support. We regularly commute several miles and spend quite a bit of time traveling to reach businesses where we shop because there's no close options. The details of the surrounding corner properties failed to mention that high-density townhome apartments and housing was recently and is currently being built around the Walgreens on the northwest corner, which is in the process of being populated We moved to this area because of the density, and we would like to see this proposal rejected and the land used for commercial development to support the southwest Ada County area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else online?
There is not.
Okay, thank you very much. In person, I've got several people listed. Rusty Bicor?
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, they need to switch the, can we turn this mic on? I've got Rusty Boycott. Did it get turned off? Rusty, is it not on?
It sounds like this one's on.
Okay.
Yeah, Rusty Boycott? Is that it?
Yeah, let's go to the next person, Toby. It looks like non-Tron?
I don't need to speak on the topic.
Okay. Luann Gerber? Or Luana?
Put me farther down, would you mind?
You know what, I kind of go through the order, so here's your chance. You've been waiting here a long time. It's on now, I think. Thank you. Give us your name and address and tell us what you think.
My name is Luana Gerber. I
There we
live at 7041 South Redshine Avenue, which is in Hazelwood Village. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. I've lived in Boise for 15 years, and the last 5 in Hazelwood Village. I'm here today to oppose the rezoning of the property bordering 5 Mile and Lockwood Avenue from commercial to residential. This follows a successful petition effort led by Hazelwood Village residents and some of our other neighbors to stop the rezoning, which took place a couple of months ago, and we were led to believe that that was the end of this process, so we were surprised when this happened again. I want to start by saying I'm not against growth. I understand we live in a wonderful place. Why wouldn't other people want to live there? But I also have a strong sense of the need for affordable housing. What I am against is building hundreds of homes and apartments before making sure that the infrastructure that is needed exists to support these new residents. Excuse me, I'm absolutely freezing in here. So. Having local businesses to provide services to my neighbors is part of the infrastructure to which I am referring. I'm going to kind of zip through this because I think other people will be more eloquent in what I'm trying to say. But I think that a new, larger development on Lockwood will most likely create a dramatic increase in traffic. And if you come to my neighborhood at 3:30 in the afternoon, you will be backed up for a mile down. So we already have great traffic problems. And I know we're promised to have new roads. Build the roads and then bring the people. Same thing with our schools. Our schools are crowded and full. Let's build a new school, then bring the people in. It's always putting the cart before the horse. So I suggest that we build the infrastructure, and certainly part of that is new businesses, that our community supports the businesses that are there now. And they talked about having more roofs, I guess. I think we have enough roofs to support what we have, my personal feeling. So to say this in the end, and I want to bring up one other thing, and that is that we do not have public transportation. We don't have buses come out for people to be able to get into town. So what does it mean? It means you get in your car and you drive. And bringing these additional cars into our area is only going to increase that. Plus, I think we could really, really benefit from more businesses and more restaurants. So I will end now, and thank you again very much. But please consider building the infrastructure before you bring new people in. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. I've got Deborah Rodney.
Yes.
And it is cold in here, but it's the first time in like 3 months I've said I'm cold, so I'm not going to complain about it. So go ahead and give us your name and address.
My name's Deborah Rodney, and I live at 11161 West Petunia Drive in Boise, in Hazelwood Village. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this hearing. I moved into Hazelwood Village a little over 7 years ago and have watched it grow to a fairly large community, but it is also a very nice community with lovely neighbors. Much of what my concerns were have been mentioned by others, but we have a lot of housing in the area already, including, which has already been mentioned, the fairly new Charlesworth development consisting of over 100 townhomes just north of the Walgreens on the corner of 5 Mile and Lake Hazel. It seems counterproductive to just build housing unit after housing unit with no thought given to where people will shop or the resulting traffic issues. I have seen areas around here filled with developments, farmland sold for homes that I know in some cases are not selling right now because of the economy. I've already noticed increased traffic in the time I've lived here. It would be nice to have space where people can walk and enjoy time with family and friends and enjoy a meal as that would hopefully would come to this space. Community planning can't possibly mean just building homes and nothing else with no thought for congestion issues. I spoke with several people who live in Hazelwood Village, not knowing how they felt about this, and every single one of them was very much against this plan. The city of Boise, as you know, came out against the zoning for the apartments and in favor of the retail development, citing that this would increase the opportunities for residents to meet most daily needs within walking distance. You also received comments from individuals and petitions, the overwhelming majority of which were in favor of the retail space. I sincerely hope that you will not go against the majority of the people who live in the area who wish for the retail space and not another congested, highly trafficked neighborhood. Please don't let Boise become another congested city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I've got Craig Whitcomb. Is there Craig Whitcomb? And then Deborah Fleming.
We have all the Deborahs here tonight.
I know, it was.
I'm Deborah Fleming. My address is 10986 West Oleana, and that's also in Hazelwood Village. I very much appreciate this opportunity to speak to you, and thank you for your time and attention. The construction of rental units at the corner of Lockwood and 5 Mile Roads would create additional negative impact to the surrounding community. There are several housing projects already underway in various stages of completion in that neighborhood, with the end result of increased traffic, pressure on the few existing services. The need is for the Lockwood parcel to be developed into business and office use to provide additional amenities, employment opportunities, and added value to the community. Instead, the proposed recommendation is to allow a zoning change so that more housing can be crammed into every square inch, contrary to the intent of the master plan. The infrastructure to support even the existing housing, and that being currently built, is tenuous at best. With little employment and no public transportation, residents of the area must drive considerable distances. Most residents settled in the area with the expectation that other aspects of the neighborhood would also come with the housing development. It hasn't happened. And once the Lockwood units are built, they will be present forever. There is very other little available space to build things people need to achieve a good way of life. Older residents are often afraid of the traffic, especially at night, and so are becoming more isolated, homebound, and detached from the larger Boise environment. Few amenities are within walking distance. At a time when many cities are embracing concepts such as livable communities with planned, walkable areas, Ada County and Boise City seem willing to sacrifice the well-being of its citizens for the sake of additional housing units. The residents of the new units will find no greater quality of life than the current residents. They will need access to the same services and will also be forced to drive to shopping, jobs, etc. It seems to be a lose-lose proposition for everyone. Those charged with making planning decisions need to take a step back, spend some time in this neighborhood, and think again. Quality of life for all residents must be a priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, I've got another list of names. Carlos Vidalis?
Yes, I have a presentation.
Right.
Connor can get that up for you.
Thank you. My name is Carlos Vidalis. I live at 10963 West Oleana Drive. I would like to mention certain things on the summary. The address of this proposal is not 10796 Lake Hazel. It is Lockwood. The address that is provided in the summary is the address of the other property that PG companies bought a quarter-mile away. They converted 30% of the residences on that HOA to rentals overnight. They just bought them. Something else I'd like to say is that I would very much appreciate if you read the City of Boise letter yourselves. The City of Boise is not asking to have higher density residential. They say they would deny the application themselves, or they would because there's not enough commercial enterprises in that area. So I would very much like to also mention that indeed every square inch of green space in Hazelwood Village is private property, sustained by our dues and not by any public monies, not taxes. So that one other thing before I begin my presentation is that I disagree with the findings of fact. I think that they are wrong. I think that they never consider vehicle miles travel. I don't think they ever consider all the things that go against the goals of the City of Boise and the Ada County goals. There are very many goals that are opposed by this development, and therefore they should not be done. So I very much oppose this development. So please, slide number 2. I'd like to point out that there's 370 individuals who submitted written comments against this development, and only 3 that said they would like to have it. And also something else, that this development will block access to our pump house. This is important for us. Unless we have access to the pump house, if the pumps go out, and we need to have a crane to come over service it, well, guess what? Nobody's going to have water in the whole MSP area. Please, next slide. So I'd like to point out that there is really only 35 acres dedicated to commercial enterprises in this area. There is only, if you draw, there's about 3,500 homes in the 2-mile square area. And in that 2-mile square area, there is only 23 businesses. And that translates into if you please go to the next slide, translates into a density of 435 residents per business available. In the City of Boise, there is 60 residents for every business. In the North End, there is 25 residents for every business. In that area, immediately to the area, to what we're talking about, 435 residents for every business. There's 110 acres for every business, compared to Boise that has 6.7 acres for every business. If you go to the larger area, a 16 square mile, we have 520 residents per business. And so I know I have run out of time. I very much appreciate it. I would appreciate if you read my presentation here. I will submit it to Mr. Lindstrom, but I very much oppose the development. I think it will not be good for anybody. One more thing. I drive about 1,000 miles a year to do errands and to do shopping outside the area. If all the residents in here will drive the same amount of area, that would be 10 million miles, 400 times around the earth. If you can just build more commercial residences, more commercial businesses in there, perhaps will save us a trip to the moon, literally, a trip to the moon and back. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lindstrom, would you just flip through the rest of the presentation so that we can see it before, if there's any, we'll just pause and see. Go ahead. I think we'll go ahead.
Let me know if you want to slow down.
Nope, you're fine. I just want to get through the rest of it, because it's going to be in the record, so
Yep, and
I want the commissioners to see what's in the record.
Yep, and Mr. Vidalis, is that correct?
Yes.
His presentation will be exhibit number 50.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I may, I'd like to point out there were another 11 acres of land south of this zone that were already converted into residential. So we already lost 11 acres.
Thank you. We'll take that into account. So thank you. Carol, would you like to come forward? Give us your name and address.
Hi,
I'm Carol Vidales at 10963 West Oleana in Boise. And I basically support everything everybody else has said, but I am currently serving as chair of the Landscape Committee at Hazelwood Village. We have about 20 acres of common area, and we also, in addition to all that land, we maintain all of the sidewalks in Hazelwood Village. That is not the case in all the neighborhoods necessarily, but we are responsible for those sidewalks. We actually also maintain all the street lights in Hazelwood Village. Obviously, we're not going to tell people don't come walk through our neighborhood, but the more people that do, we also have dog waste stations and dog bags, and even with the Parkside development that's currently being built and occupied just north of us, out along Hazelwood Village, we've noticed a big increase in our expenses to do that. So some of this, I'm looking at it, that you add, I look at the site plan for this, and they say they have all this common space. But I'm sorry, a dog park and a tot lot, if you've got children that want to go play ball, where are they going to play? We have our biggest park is 1 acre with a pool, a clubhouse, and a tot lot, if you will, right next to it. It's large. That's going to be the big draw where everybody's going to want to go. Boise doesn't have, we haven't been annexed. They have Pearl Jensen Park land that is set aside, but the rumor on the street is that Boise would like to get rid of that. Meanwhile, Ada County doesn't have parks in that area. So Hazelwood Village, our parks, our private parks, are the draw. Parkside, that is just north of us, which is where they're going to be buying the little pinwheel homes to do for rentals. We were here when that was going under planning and zoning for development or consideration in 2019 and 2020. And the story there was, it's so hard for younger people to get into the housing market. This will be lower level. Well, the housing market changed. Those are all in the 400 to 499 now. So they're not entry-level homes, and most of those are turning over to rentals. There's one in there that's an Airbnb that is advertising, if the little patio in the back's not big enough, just walk 3 blocks down. Hazelwood Village has parks and green space for you. They don't say anything about it's all private. So that's what we're up against, that we've had some of their residents come in, want to use our facilities. You can say that they have enough land. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for coming in. John Murphy?
Well, thank you for your time. My name's John Murphy. I live at 6756 South Tallahassee Avenue in Boise in Hazelwood Village. And I agree about what everybody else says, and I oppose this expansion on these multifamily homes. And the only other things I want to add is, we've had quite a scare lately about water. Well, what are you going to do for water for 130 units, 2 and 3 bedrooms? So that's at least 2 to 3 bathrooms per unit. So, and then there's going to have sewer expansion too because of all the bathrooms and kitchen sinks and dishwashers. So have you made plans as a developer, and everybody made plans for adding the extra sewage going up? All those sewer lines have to be pumped to get up to drain into the sewer system. And so that's extra expense, keeping those pumps going, and the water. Are we gonna have enough water to accommodate all those units? And the other big thing is all the roads, surrounding your roads, Lake Hazel, 5 Mile, Maple Grove, Cloverdale, Amity, they're all 2-lane highways. Well, the Ada County Sheriff's Department, and my son-in-law is a deputy for Ada County, and he works out of the CUNA office. And it's a real shame that the roads aren't big enough to handle emergency vehicles. So, and I agree with the other person that said, until you expand the road system, you're not going to adequately take care of the people that might be in need of emergency services. So I would think about those things. It looks like, yes, the cart has been put before the horse. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in tonight. Jacob Pritchett? Give us your name and address, and you can say your name properly since I can't read it.
Jacob Pritchett. I live at 100980 West Leilani Drive in Hazelwood Village. Now, I don't have a big prepared speech or anything. I heard about this earlier today, but as a resident of this neighborhood, I cared enough to put aside my plans for the rest of the day and the evening to come out here and discuss this. And pretty much the situation is that people have covered what I was already sort of going to say in terms of like the density. We came out when we picked this area because of the low density. But the thing is, the businesses there's not enough of them yet. The ratios that Carlos was discussing that's spot on. When I go to the Albertsons, is always pretty full. When I go to the McDonald's, I was waiting there for like very long time once, to the point where I had to leave and go somewhere else because it's just, and the Walgreens has lines like this too. There's not enough businesses for how many people there are there already. We can't have more people coming into this. And the water is another good point. We are already, like, the water pressure in our sinks and stuff is already relatively low. We have to time out all of our sprinkler systems. The roads, the traffic is awful right now. I mean, like they're saying, 2-lane, it's tough. Traffic at 3 p.m., really rough. And property value, when we bought these homes, they were zoned for business, and that was the expectation that we were all investing in when we invested in these homes that we purchased. And if this is rezoned to residential, these problems we're facing right now are just going to get worse. I don't know that I have much more to say besides just reiterating these points and coming here and making my own voice heard, even if it's not saying many new things. Just, this is important to a lot of us here.
Well, thank you for coming down tonight.
course.
We appreciate it. Is it Maurice Seinfeld?
I'm with the applicant.
Okay. I'm sorry, John Hastings?
Hi, good evening. John Hastings, 7173 Pinseeker in Meridian. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today in favor of the project. I'm a local home builder. We focus on quality housing and have built a lot of homes in this part of Boise. I've worked with the applicant on multiple other projects in similar communities and have been really impressed with the quality level that they're trying to bring to the table. I feel like this isn't your typical multifamily projects. They're committed to partnering with local companies that build high quality projects, and the finish level that I've seen on these is in line with the single family homes that we build in other parts of the community. I'm excited to see this type of project. I think that detached and duplex style with their own yards, kind of rental homes, cottages, if you will, is a great move for the area. It introduces a new housing type that we don't already have, and I think that it's sorely needed. With the housing market starting to slow, I think that this can be a great, projects like this moving forward can be a great boon to the economy and provide jobs for our trade contractors moving forward. And so I think that housing supply is going to start to dwindle as the market slows and home builders slow down their starts. And so I think that our community is going to be in need of additional housing, and so I'm in favor of the project. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I show several more people on the list there with the applicant. Is there anybody else in the room or online that would like to testify either for or against? Go ahead and come forward. Give us your name and address.
My name is Elaine Crawford, and I live at 10704 West Avelia Street in Hazelwood Village. And the first thing I'd like to say is when I purchased my home, which was brand new, 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I specifically asked what the vacant lot was going to be, and was told commercial. Totally commercial. It will not change. This came from the salesman in the office. My home is not 100 yards from this new development. I'm 15 yards from it. Lockwood runs right behind the street I live on, as does with another friend of mine. The entrance and the exit of this new development will be coming right between the end of 5 Mile and just becoming right out of into the direction of my home. I know a lot of us in this new section at Hazelwood Village purchased there as retirement. We don't have young families. We intended to live there for the rest of our life. The property values, in my opinion, are going to drop. And when I saw the sketch of the new development, there's no way they have walking paths in there. You have to walk down the sidewalk in a circle on the inside. That's not walking paths, but the people who live there, as they come out, can just turn west on Lockwood, and within 2 blocks, they're in the middle of our 1-acre park behind our clubhouse. We have a big playground for the children of our area, and it's open, it's not fenced. You can't tell me people in those rentals aren't gonna just come over there and bring their kids. And I'm not opposed to children having playgrounds by any means, but we pay HOA dues, and we work very hard to protect the amenities in Hazelwood Village. And this, I urge you, please, please reject this. This is not going to benefit the people who live there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming down. Is there anybody else in the room or online that would like to testify? Go ahead, come forward.
Good evening. My name is Robert Wade. I live at 10772 West Alfena in Hazelwood Village. You've got a tough decision as planners. You get one choice at this, one shot when you're developing a city, and you've got crucial decisions to go ahead and make. I don't envy your position, but I thank you for the duty that you do. A lot of times in my professional and my personal life, I try to take and reflect upon important decisions at 3 levels: good, better, and best. I think I've gone ahead and heard enough tonight and analyzed the situation with an open mind, and would go ahead and comment, please make the best decision. And sometimes that is a hold, a pause, to go ahead and reflect back on what was planned before in the future and what you have right now. I want to give you a imagery of, take a look at and go up Lake Hazel all the way to Eagle, that intersection, the top of that hill, and then turn around. And what you see is black roofs for as long as you can go ahead and imagine. And what I will share with you is that I see a problem that we have. Of course, we needed to go ahead and have housing. Got great developers come into the valley and execute wonderful properties. But what these properties are islands to themselves. They're not connected. There's no businesses there. They can't the residents there have to drive into town or to Overland or to Eagle or Meridian. They're isolated. We have to really go ahead and plan this well, because you have one shot. We need those businesses. What they do is provide an opportunity to add to community when people can gather and get together. So besides just Hazelwood Village, in this proposal that you have, take a look at the landscape and what's happening. And you'll see wonderful, well-planned, excellent housing developments, huge, for as far as the eyes can see. And they're all islands, and they're all alone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room or online who would like to talk at this point?
There's nobody else online.
Okay. And I don't see anybody else in the room, so we'll go ahead and proceed. We've got several questions for Mr. Lindstrom, so go ahead and we'll ask Mr. Lindstrom questions. Commissioner Colson, do you have questions?
Go ahead, I'll wait.
Commissioner Wickstrom?
Just one thing I can think of right now. For the open space area in this development or redevelopment, the street area is also is called open space. There's no differentiation between a hardscape and greenbelt area.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Wickstrom, I do not know the ins and outs of exactly what open space is. Mr. Danielson's been here longer than I have, so maybe he knows more.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Wickstrom, so the parking area and the drive aisles are not considered part of the open space. So basically the open space in that development would be kind of the yards, basically the green space. So anything that's kind of natural vegetation, that would be considered the open space within the development.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I wondered if you could comment on one of the parties' comments that the city of Boise basically rejected this subdivision, or this, that if we read the city of Boise's letter closely, it would tell us that the city of Boise doesn't support this project.
Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. The city of Boise is recommending we deny the project. If you want any more detail, let me know.
No, I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Birch?
So, Mr. Lindstrom, the action tonight that we are taking is not to approve or deny the project, it's to recommend approval or denial to the Board of County Commissioners. Isn't that correct?
Commissioner Birch, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Exton?
None at this time, thank you.
I have a couple more questions, because that's my deal, is I have questions. So are there some public facilities, like for parks, that are relatively close? Or what would be the closest public facilities, or even closest school facilities, for like playgrounds and stuff?
Yeah, Madam Chair, so I believe some of the folks that testified, they explained that there are some nearby parks. Sounds like that are specifically to the Hazelwood development. So those are part of the HOA. They're not allowed to be utilized by anybody that would be living in this multifamily development. There's also on Lake Hazel, kind of to the east of this property down the road, there is a proposed park site currently from the city, but it sounds like that, that's potentially not going to be utilized for a park. Obviously, there's not a park there currently. For existing sites, and maybe the applicant can address this further, I know that to the west, down Lake Hazel, there is a school there currently. I'm not super familiar with the area in terms of other schools and parks, but that's most I can give you right now. So,
Madam Chair, I can maybe highlight some of that. So about a half a mile to the west, there's the Lake Hazel Elementary School. Okay. And then directly south of Hazelwood Village, there's the Christine Donnell School of the Arts. And then there's Lake Hazel Middle School, probably about a mile from here. That's on, I think, Valley Street and LaGrange. And then there's another elementary school in Charter Point subdivision.
Okay. Is the park that you're referring to that's east of the property, is that the one that's been under controversy?
That is correct, yeah. It's currently not a park, but is a proposed park site in the comp plan, I believe.
Okay.
Here's a Devonshire
Couple more
Community Park,
questions.
about a half mile east. They're right there.
Okay, what other questions do the commissioners have? Nobody has addressed the irrigation easement, or the easement to get across the property for the cranes. And so I think we'll ask that the applicant address that in their rebuttal, because that was something that isn't within your view, but I didn't hear it answered as we went through. Anything else that we haven't heard answered? Do we have questions about?
Not for Mr. Lindstrom, no.
Okay. So I think we're done with questions for Mr. Lindstrom, and now the applicant has about 10 minutes for rebuttal, and then we'll provide some questions, so.
Thank you again, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Again, for the record, Bonnie Layton with NV5. Thank you again for your time this evening. I think we had a lot of very thoughtful feedback from folks, and I'll try to address as many of these issues. I also believe David Bourne will come up and speak to some of these issues as well. First of all, I'd like to address traffic in the intersection. That is not an uncommon issue that is brought up for these types of projects. I hear this all over the valley, and it's not something new. As I did mention in my original presentation, ACHD did a study of the intersection back in 2018. And in that study, they had 4 roundabout designs and 1 signalized intersection option. It went through a series of workshops, and ultimately the decision was to go with the signalized intersection. So that is what currently exists. There is some development happening on the north side of Lake Hazel, east or west of 5 Mile. So frontage improvements along there, as well as some other frontage improvements as the properties develop out. As I mentioned, ACHD and in their staff report talked about maybe some coordination and moving that entrance, which we're in our submittal amenable to working with them should we be allowed to move forward on this project. One thing to mention about traffic, we have submitted a traffic impact study that's part of our submittal that evaluates the number of units and access onto Lockwood. Should there be a commercial use, the traffic could be significantly higher than what our site generates. It really depends on what type of use is there. There are a number of permitted uses in this commercial zone if it were to stay this way. So to assume that this is going to increase the traffic is really doesn't necessarily bear out, so we have to look at the submitted traffic impact study and go off of those values. ACHD has required certain improvements, go along with that, and we are in agreement with those. Access onto Lockwood is within ACHD standards. They have specific guidelines, and we meet those guidelines. Let's see. In the area, we do have a public library, we have schools. As you heard, there is a slated public park to the east of us. Water and sewer, we do have service ability, so that is already part of approved for this parcel. So we're not creating any sort of additional burden. Actually, our development provides for very water-wise design, so instead of a large grassy open spaces, we have more intimate spaces that use drought-tolerant landscaping in the backyards. We have a synthetic turf and a concrete pad, so people have that outdoor space. Very different than what you would see in a typical 3-story walk-up that might have just a smaller balcony. Each resident has their own little backyard space. We expect a range of residents everywhere from young folks to older folks, people that really want a different lifestyle to live. There's a lot of 3-story walk-ups in the valley, and that's one option, but if maybe you're looking to downsize, you don't want anybody above or below you, this provides that opportunity. It's walkable, it's safe. We're providing connectivity, the 5 Mile, along 5 Mile right now, we're gonna be improving that frontage, which will help with connectivity from all of our neighbors around to get up to and across over to Albertsons. That's walkable. Landscape buffers, again, just enhancing the appearance. The irrigation easement and access to the pump house, our engineers have been working to resolve that issue, to provide access, and we do have a plan in place that we believe we've been in contact with the crane company. really trying to work with them to make sure that they have adequate access, and we'll continue in that effort based on the standards that they're asking for. Let's see. I think that's it, and I'll just defer the rest of my time to Mr. Bourne. So if there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Why don't we let Mr. Bourne talk, and then we'll ask both of you questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I start, I just wanted to say to all of the people here who came and made comments, I've been to a lot of public hearing meetings where very contentious views are held, and I just want to say how much I appreciate even though I may disagree with some of the opinions of some of the people who came, I appreciate how they were represented in such a respectful manner. So thank you. I want to address a couple things. One, Mr. Vidalis stated the address was incorrect. He's actually right about that. It is Lockwood, not Lake Hazel. I'm not sure where that's stated on the application, but it is the Lockwood address. The second thing I wanted to address just briefly is I think there's a lot of concerns about the fact that this will be a primarily renter occupied community. And I think it's unfortunate that renters get such a negative stigma, especially seeing as at some point in our life, most of us were renters at one time. As homes become more unaffordable to purchase, we're seeing a trend where people are renting for longer periods of time, and it's kind of a lifestyle generational change that's happening in our country. And we're trying to provide some additional options for those people who are either have to make that choice or want to consciously make that choice. And we're trying to do it in as responsible way as possible. Some of the things that are brought up as the stereotypical concerns about renter-occupied homes, the decrease in upkeep, the behavior that might be contrary to the values of the neighborhood, like changing your oil on your driveway or your whole engine, parties till 2 in the morning, or as mentioned, dogs walking around and defecating all over the area. A lot of those things are eradicated in our communities because we have active property management. Those things include, oftentimes if I buy my house and then rent it out somewhere later and somebody has a party till 2 in the morning and you're next door, you don't know who to call. If something like that happens in one of our communities, you know exactly who to call because we have on-site property management. And even to things as silly as the dog poop, we implement doggy DNA where everybody who lives there has to register their DNA so that if they're pooping outside of where they're supposed to be, we can track who it is and then they pay a fine for it. Something that we would actually be very willing to extend into the Lake Hazel HOA to make sure that none of our residents are having their dogs poop in their neighborhood. It's something we take very seriously. Outside of that, that's kind of the only things I wanted to address, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have with myself or Bonnie.
Thank you. I'll go down the line. Any questions? Any questions?
Yeah, a couple, just real quick.
Commissioner Wickstrom.
If you can pull up looks like the landscape plan, just it's more colorful. The buildings that are along the northern and southern edge, they don't have direct access to parking, do they? It looks like all the parking's along the main.
No, so all of the parking is going to be interior and they're on the inside. And to access that, they're going to have to walk through pedestrian paths to their homes, similar to what you'd see in a garden-style apartment complex. But instead of walking upstairs, they're just walking through a level pedestrian path.
And which of the units would have attached garages on those?
So the attached garage, or the garages are actually detached. I'm going to walk up there and show you. Here and there, and you see similar ones up above.
Okay.
So they're not directly tied to individual units. Our residents can opt to rent them if they choose.
Okay. Ms. Layton might be able to answer. You did do a traffic study. There was a county engineer who came up with a number of 1,300 trips per day. Is that pretty similar to what you came up with in your study?
Thank you, Commissioner Wickstrom. The traffic impact study was commissioned by Kimley Horn, and so what they do, they use their standard procedures, look at the number of units, and then do their calculations that way. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's a
Did you
standard
have a number?
procedure.
A number.
I would have to pull it up, but, so the way the traffic impact studies work is it gets scoped by ACHD and approved. They go out, they collect traffic counts, they factor in all of the background traffic. It's submitted back to ACHD for review and approval or any changes that need to be made. So the staff report that you have before you, ACHD is in agreement with what those findings were.
Okay. Does the number 1,300 sound reasonable for, I mean, that sounds like a lot maybe, but just 1,300 daily trips is what an engineer, a county engineer came up with. Is that?
I'm not an engineer, I apologize. So I would just defer to our traffic impact study.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Colson?
Can you do me a favor and go back over the commercial ratios per house over the top? I mean, I literally drive this intersection every day. I stop at that coffee shop every day. So can you kind of break that back down for me? Make me smart on that?
Sure, Commissioner Colson, if you could turn, Connor, to the first spreadsheet that's in our presentation.
We're going to test Connor's technical skills here.
Okay, sorry, which?
A little bit of pressure.
Which sheet was that?
The first one, okay, next one up. There we go. So I'll start here. So what we really looked at is taking data from the almanac and saying, in the context is the city as the whole, as we're looking at what development pattern. This is supposed to be a mixed-use area. And what do we actually have out there? Where is the commercial located? And you'll see that on the next slide. So what I did is I logged in that information and then did a comparison. So for this area of town, it's 94% single family. So very, very low density, less than 2 units per acre. When you're a commercial developer, and David can speak more to this because PEG Companies does do a lot of commercial development as well, that's a driving factor, number of rooftops for folks. Now, the Southwest Planning Area is huge, right? It's 10 square miles, it's very large, same with the South Cole. So the whole area is very large, but it's very dense, sparsely populated. And so when you look at, I say, the north end is kind of the gold standard for a lot of folks, livable, walkable. You look at the number of units per acre and the number of people per acre, and then look at how those folks are supporting those commercial businesses. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, is a store going to locate there if there's no houses, if there's no customers? And so that was the point that I was trying to make with this. So we're at the very top end in this area in terms of lowest density, so 94%, 1 unit. If you look at the north end, they've got 70, I think it's 71% that says is single family. So there's a greater diversity, and I think this table is really telling that there just isn't a mix of diversity in this region. And so bringing this type of development to the area will support the commercial as a whole. If you want to scroll to the commercial, the surrounding, next, I think it's the next one. There we go. So again, there have been some changes over time. There's the comp plan, which is a guiding document. There has been the parcel that's to the northwest of us that was rezoned from residential to commercial. That's really appropriate, being adjacent to Lake Hazel, visible for those businesses. As you move to the east side of 5 Mile, that has taken some time. Some of us have been around long enough to know that that was a Paul's, and it struggled for years really to make it. There is still a commercial pad out front that's available, the taco truck that is out there that operates. We also see to the north with the McDonald's that's just developed, but there are additional areas for that to be developed and would seem, again, as I had mentioned before, more appropriate. There's a nice dividing line between the residential subdivision to the east of that. There's a canal, so that would be a really great prime commercial and retail space, the going to town side of the road. And then, of course, with the Hubble Homes development in the northwest corner, it is helping to bring some product mix. But again, in looking at the almanac, we're so far down the line of even being close to any of the city averages when it comes to mix of product, density, and number of residents. So for those reasons, we're saying, okay, if you look at that northeast or northwest corner, you'll see that basically about the same amount, if you were to flip that over, we're encompassing roughly the same amount of acreage on our side. Again, adjacent to the roadways that are visible, that's what's most attractive to commercial developers. And we're providing connectivity along the pathway, making those connections both along the canal and then a diagonal into that commercial. So it's more walkable than it is today. Right now it's a vacant field. And as I mentioned, the improvements, the widening of 5 Mile will enhance the pedestrian safety for folks choosing to walk over to Albertsons. So,
No, it makes a lot of sense. To be honest, I've grown up here since I was a kid, so I was 4 miles from here. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. They did struggle. The Lake Hazel bowling alley that was there, it had to go out of business. And I think the demographics that I'm looking at in those outskirts is when that was all built back in 70s, 80s, everybody was on bigger lots. I mean, you're talking 1 acre lots. I mean, if you look farther out and around this, and I see where your numbers are coming from now because of looking on Google Earth where everything's much bigger lots, which are never going to go away, right? Those houses, you're not going to go in there and mow 5 houses down to put more stuff in. And so I see where those make those numbers work, and I've watched, unfortunately, those businesses do fail. And I do see your point on how the density, you're correct, and over the years, yeah, the residential has to come so that the commercial can come with it, because otherwise people aren't going to invest and build out there to do commercial properties. So that's why I wanted to see the demographics on all of that and kind of see a little bit and actually hopefully kind of have you guys understand a little bit too what I was looking at. So thank you. Appreciate it.
thank you, I appreciate
Any
that.
more questions? I've got some questions. So a lot of the residents brought up the concerns about Hazelwood having their own HOA that supports their common space and their open areas, and not wanting to be the mean neighbors that say you are not allowed to play on our grass. So what are you going to do to provide enough attractive amenities on your location that your children won't be looking for the most available place to go play?
I think it's 2 parts to that. One is exactly as you said, providing the amenities that make an attractive community, and 2, educating the residents that these are the amenities. There's other parks local, as Connor brought out, just not the Hazelwood parks that are available to them. We're trying to put an amenity package in there that we feel is going to be attractive to the people who are going to want to live here. Some type of clubhouse, a pool, which is very attractive, parks, open space. We mentioned the walking trail, which I think at half a mile, yeah, it's a winding walking trail. I think half mile is fairly significant in a community of this size. We want to have enough there that people want to go there and stay there for that.
So what's your plan in other communities that you have when you have attractive amenities that aren't part of yours? How do you work with your neighbors in those other communities?
This is probably the only community where we're surrounded by a specific HOA that would have, as you mentioned, an attractive amenity right over there, and it's like, don't go there. What we try to do is make enough attractive amenities within the community that is appealing to them. I think this one is unique and would require, in addition to providing amenities, some level of education to our residents to say, look, reinforcing, this is private property. This is not where you're supposed to go.
and this is like me thinking outside the box and me thinking like, wanting everybody to be getting along kumbaya-ish. Have you visited with the homeowners association about the possibility of contributing to their homeowners association so that you could have access to those amenities?
We have not communicated with them in that regard. I'd be open to having that conversation if they would be.
And then, just to shift gears a little bit, is the crane accessing the homeowners association property on this property currently? And so is there an easement for that, or has it just been kind of like the way things have been?
We're talking about the pump station, right?
The pump station crane, yeah.
Morty, do you want to, is it okay if we bring up Morty, who's had a little more hands-on with the conversations?
I understand what's going on with that pump station crane.
So the pump station right now is being serviced using the parcel in question, our development, without an easement. We will be joining the same irrigation system. We have an agreement in place that we would be joining the same irrigation system, so our incentives are aligned. And we've been talking to the pump service company. They have given us their requirements for crane access, and we believe we're able to put that in without changing the plan as you see it now, just adding grass pavers that can hold the weight of their crane. And we'll update the plans when we get to next stage.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you state
your name real quick? I'm sorry, your name and address.
Morty Steinfeld, 145 West, 200 North, Provo, Utah. Sorry, the office address.
One last question, and I'm going to go back to the amenities. And part of me feels like the tot lot and some of those amenities are kind of vague. And so is there any way that we could add some more, or any language? We don't want to be negotiating language, but would you be open to more specificity around those amenities?
When you say open to it, would we be open to putting more specific language in the application, or would we be open to receiving recommendations from you?
Okay.
Probably both.
I'd say probably both also.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I think I've asked all my questions. Any more questions? So I think we're going to let you excuse you and let you sit down, and we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you.
And then I am the one who is not able to provide a motion, so I'll look to one of my commissioners for a motion that would be either, we got three options. We can approve the project, we could deny the project, or we can table the project. Commissioner Birch.
Madam Chair, I move that notwithstanding the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained in the staff report, and based upon other information in the staff report and testimony from this public hearing, this commission recommend denial of project number 200600671-ZC-DA-M and 202201-253-MSP.
Thank you. It's nice to get on the table. Is there a second for that motion? Commissioner Wickstrom seconds the motion. So Commissioner Birch, if you can give us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, just a few things. The written presentation that the applicant made, I thought was one of the best that I've read in a very long time. It was exceptional. And it anticipated the strong headwinds that this project is facing. In the 3 years, nearly 3 years, that I've been on this commission, I can't remember a time when we've had the municipality whose influence area a project was in and hundreds of applicants both being in opposition and still approving the project. I've seen one or the other, but I've not seen both. In this case, you have the City of Boise saying no. You have the Southwest Ada County Alliance Neighborhood Association saying no. You've got hundreds of residents saying no. Now, as Ms. Layton pointed out, the residents need to be careful what they wish for, because something commercial could go on that property that they are not going to like. Some of the neighbors did not like that McDonald's that went in on the corner. because of the lights and everything else and the noise that would be created. That's going to be the same problem. And so you would take this action if this commission denies recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and you'd probably be making the exact same arguments. The arguments that some of the residents of Hazelwood Village in opposition made, and I just point out Mr. Vidalis's, the letter that he submitted. Again, that it was extraordinarily well written. Mr. Kelly wrote an extraordinary letter, and so did many of the other residents. And this report was 661 pages long, and I don't want you to think that we did not read it, because I read those letters, I read the petition, and so it is a tough call, because the project looks like it would be a great project, but not here.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Wickstrom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are lots of things I like about this project. I like the unit mix. I like the nobody above nor below, the horizontal architecture. What I don't particularly care for is the density in that area, and just the influence it's going to have on the traffic for that neighborhood, where you're coming out on the Lockwood and you're going to have a majority of the people are going to be making a left-hand turn. With that extra traffic there, that extra 130 units, it's going to divert a lot of the people back through the neighborhood up to Hazelwood, Lake Hazelwood, and then they'll be making a right turn up there. I was hoping actually I seconded it because I wanted to get the conversation going. I was hoping we could maybe just send it back to staff, make a recommendation to send it back to staff so that they could work on the density of this project. That's the one problem I have. I look at there's your plat map, and it looks like those units are just stuffed in there. The size of the lots, there's a meandering trail that goes through there, but there's not really a lot of open space for that many units, and they are tightly bunched. You're right, the commercial is important. I don't see that there's going to be a big rush in that area to bring in any other large box stores. It's just not, they don't have the population there. You don't have the economics there with those older homes. And I was looking, it's only about 3.5 miles to get up to Overland. I'd love to drive 3.5 miles to get up to all, the theaters and all of the Costco and everything. I've got to drive 10 miles just to get to a Walmart. So I'm not feeling bad that there's not a lot of commercial in it. There's enough in there, and there will be more, and there are lots available for future commercial uses. I just don't see anybody rushing down there with a big commercial development in that area, at least not for a long time. But I was hoping just to get a lower density for this project, because I do like the design and the idea, and to bring in that kind of more of that type of mix of housing in this area for a change. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So thank you. Commissioner Exton, or?
Sure.
Make comments?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Commissioner Wickstrom, I personally just kind of, my vague familiarness with this area, I've driven through it a few times, but I wouldn't say I've been there, a whole lot, like every day or anything. But similar to what Wickstrom and Colson have said, this whole area is very much kind of the same style of home spread across multiple miles. I think even though this isn't a massive development in the grand scheme of this whole area, I think that nice change of pace in terms of, home style or product, as the applicant was referring to, I think that could be beneficial to this area, again, from, the 50,000 foot view looking down. I do see and hear all of the active concerns about traffic, but I do feel like, if there was something like a Costco or a Walmart or something else, like a larger box store that would be able to accommodate an 11.4 acre property, I think you would have probably about the same, if not more, potentially daily, trips. So I think the trip side of things is probably going to be one of them. It's more like inevitable, potentially, regardless of what happens, you're probably going to have those trips, at least from my understanding. I do think, to echo Chairperson Blitman's questions and remarks, I would be curious to see what could happen if the applicant and the HOA did have a sit-down meeting about potentially finding a balance, whether that be, maybe being absorbed in the HOA somehow, or providing that payment to where then you could have access to those parks and kind of have that good balance there. But at the same time, I obviously know there's no way we can require that. And also, I know that's definitely something that is not within our purview to require or ask even in some cases. But I am torn because on one hand, I do think, this change of, housing type would be good. And I also do agree the commercial side of things, to paraphrase what the applicant said, this is kind of a very pseudo-isolated area in the sense that you really don't have a lot else going on besides all of those homes. But at the same time, I don't think there'll be any like massive rush to develop something, or in my opinion, I feel like it would have already happened at this point. You should at least get the ball rolling on developing something on this land from a commercial perspective. So I don't know how strong the argument of just let it sit would be, because I think if you just let it sit, either a similar project will come before us in a different way of a rezone, or again, it might be something that, 10, 20 years even, potentially you'll have, a Walmart or something, which then, again, at that point, who knows if everyone will be happy with a Walmart there versus something else. So I think this is definitely a sticky one where there is no great answer, so to speak, but I do think something can happen with this property at some point that could make people happy again, I know that's a very vague comment, but I think regardless of the solution, I do think there will be unhappy parties no matter what happens. I wish I could be optimistic, but.
Thank you. Commissioner Colson?
I guess I'm probably one of the most knowledgeable on this area, and the Hazelwood subdivision. I've done a lot of work in the Hazelwood subdivision, and I want to let you guys know that it's a beautiful subdivision. The developers, the builders in there have done a fantastic job. They've bought a great product. You have this massive park in the front. They did a great job, and to me, of being in that area and knowing the demographics and knowing how big the other houses are and the lots are on your surrounding outskirts, especially to the south and to the west, that stuff is never going to change. It may, but the houses, economically wise, especially right now with where the economy is and the housing pricing and where everybody is in this is, I don't see the numbers working to where people would eliminate those houses. So I don't see that stuff going anywhere. I think, in my opinion, and after being, growing up here and going to the Pauls and now the Albertsons and the bowling alley that's now turned into the library, and watching those businesses fail, I think, to be honest, I think this piece of parcel screams for residential. And the reason I say it screams for residential is because of the times and trips I've been through there, and the amount of houses I've worked in Hazelwood subdivision, and what I'm afraid will happen is something like that, a big box store. But I don't see anybody doing that either, and the reason is exactly which Wixton has brought up. Commissioner Wixton is you're 3.5 miles away from a theater. I go to Edwards Theater all the time. I go to Edwards and I go to Majestic and Meridian all the time, every weekend with my kids. And so to me, I guess define suburbs, how far out are suburbs? Is 3.5 miles too far? Is 10 miles what a suburb is? Is 1 mile what a suburb is? To me, I think this, maybe could be more common area and more better to help keep people from going into Hazelwood subdivision. I get that. I think that an entrance out onto 5 Mile, as me looking at this property on that, would be beneficial because it would steer people from trying to sneak their way through Hazelwood subdivision as far as traffic goes. I think it's a beautiful project. I think that the reason I like it so much is because I know where it's going. I know where the pricing in this valley is going. And they're building something that can be affordable, but trying to keep it to where it's not the straight up low income. I think it's a great product and a great project. And I think that no matter what happens here, I would bet that that's still going to always go back to residential and commercial wise. traffic is going to be the traffic on that type of stuff. And the harder commercial becomes, especially with everything that people can order online and have delivered to their house. I mean, commercial is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, unfortunately. And to have that nice of a product, I think that product will actually bring more value to Hazelwood subdivision as far as their homes and the quality of their product. I know some of the clients and stuff of that have done those type of things, you know, and it's a good quality piece. It's so with that being said, that's kind of my take on it. I kind of like the idea. Like if I don't think I'm not in for the denial. Maybe I'm in for more of a staff level. Go back and talk to that, or or the approval side of things. But just because I know that's probably going to go residential, and I know that's not what some of you guys want to hear, and I know that's not ideal for what you guys want to hear, but. With that being smaller versus the 2-3-story apartment complexes, that's going on the north side of that, around the Walgreens, I mean, I would much rather have that than what's going on over there. So that's kind of my take on it all.
Thank you very much. I grew up on Lake Hazel, and so I've been going to the Paul's store there for a really long time. And so this is literally in an area that I've spent a lot of time in. It's been 16 years that it's been commercial, and it's never been developed. And I think that tells us something, that it's not as attractive as commercial. I know people bought their houses relying on it being commercial, and I can appreciate that, because when I buy my house, I'm surrounded by a 160-acre farm that's zoned, farmland, but it happens to be a quarter mile from the city of Meridian, and I can guarantee you that in my lifetime, it won't stay farmland. It's going to be residential. So I can appreciate the grief and the loss that comes with what we expected versus what we're going to see. I am disappointed that it's a beautiful project, and I love the one-story design, and I love the concept, and I love the idea of having these kinds of units. I think about my in-laws, and I think about people that I know that would love this kind of a place to have a dog in their backyard, young families. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful project. I am disappointed that the applicant and the homeowners haven't been able to get together and come up with some creative solutions for what the people will do and the use of the facilities. And I can agree with Commissioner Birch that this is the first one we've seen where there's overwhelmingly this much opposition. And then also having the city of Boise not approve it. So part of me is, we make recommendations, and then either the applicant or the other parties can appeal those, or it automatically goes to the Planning and Zoning Commissioners, and then they get to make the final decision, and they're the ones that are elected. So I realize that I'm probably gonna, I really like to see the applicant and the homeowners, come together with a better answer for some clarity on places for the kids to play and places for the dogs to do their dog things. So, what other comments do we have? Is that?
I mean, for me, the only other thing to echo off of what you just said is, I do think regardless of what residential thing goes here, if it does end up residential, like you were saying, Commissioner Colson, I do think unless you have like a security gate or something, there are going to be, kids that will end up in that park. I think that is like an inevitable part of just this whole area. So I do agree. I think having some form of agreement or something, or maybe even potentially, not having one unit and having a larger park in this development could potentially be a good compromise. And I also do think it is very unfortunate that renters do have such a bad reputation. and that there are those feelings out there in this area, especially because it does seem to me that this applicant is making an effort to make it, you know, more of a community style renting area, especially with that, you know, on-site property management 24/7. You're not just going to get, you know, a large swath of people that if you're unhappy because of whatever reason, you don't know who to call. You know, there is that on-site person that can then go and not be like, hey, turn the music off, it's past quiet hours or something like that. You know, but I do think it is still unfortunate that, you know, renters do have that bad rep. And to me, the density side of things, I think the density is fine. You know, I think anything less dense just kind of would get lost in the rest of this neighborhood. Anything more dense would be unwieldy, I think, potentially, in terms of traffic and everything. So I do think this potentially it's the sweet spot, but those are kind of the rest of my feelings at the moment.
Commissioner Birch.
So I would just suggest that regardless of what this commission does, that when it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, if the Board of County Commissioners were to deny the application, I don't see that this land is going to sit vacant. That as a practical matter, if the owner of the property wants to sell it, then it will either become single-family homes, which I think the Hazelwood residents would be much more in favor of because it would be far less dense, or it will become a mixed-use project where there will be a combination of housing perhaps above minor retail establishments. It'd probably be one or the other, but it would not be nearly this dense.
I think that's a great point, Commissioner Birch. And so when I envision that mixed retail, it's the little office or the little shop that's at the bottom and the person that lives above it. And so like kind of what you see in Garden City. And those would all be two-story. And I guess I'm in a one-story house. I would prefer to back up to a one-story house next door. So that's one of the advantages of this proposal. My feeling on density is I like the density because it's right next door to a grocery store, a pharmacy, and a library. And that's kind of been my mantra when we've had projects come before us. I'm like, how far away are you from the grocery store? And this is right across the street. So I like that aspect of the project.
Yeah, and assuming you're not doing like a massive load of groceries, you could probably walk from this development to your grocery store and back as more of like a daily little walk trip instead of, you know, having to drive all the way over there unless, again, you're doing a massive fill up.
Yeah, I could see that. Comments, Commissioner Wickstrom?
Yeah, just for the residents there in his adjacent development, and just doing a little research at the PEG company, that it's a very reputable company, and they've got some great projects, and to have them come in and do a design in your areas, I would say it's an honor, but they're reputable and they do a good product and seem to manage them well. You're lucky to have gotten that far. Hopefully, if whatever happens, it'll be somebody as reputable as these guys are.
Commissioner Colson?
Yeah, I think the other thing that's inedible on that piece of property as well, or where everything is going, the rental aspect, it's coming. I mean, that's where it's gonna head. I mean, I'm pretty know a lot about interest rates and all that type of stuff, and it's gonna get to where this is affordable product with what the interest rates are going at. And people are younger generation, my kids, other kids are gonna have a real tough time being able to buy a house. And that's where this is gonna come into play. I mean, this gives them a nice home for a cost-effective price. And the only way that I'd assume these guys are making the numbers work is the higher density. So in my opinion, I think no matter what, whatever this happens, I would bet that it's going to come with the same project. As far as, I mean, I get the office retail down below and that above, but you could be getting something that's 3 stories. And to me, you're now bringing the city look more out to the suburbs, in my opinion, which, you know, I mean, maybe that'll come across, but in my opinion, I think this is a very, in being in business in the construction industry for 20 some odd years, this is a very great product. So.
I would say I like the product a lot. I mean, I like this a lot better than a storage unit facility for that site because it's right beside the grocery store and the library. And then we have people closer. But I also recognize that we've got a lot of people that have come with a lot of concerns. I was going to ask Commissioner Birch, with the denial, we have to identify the reason for the denial, so that, not like a specific, for the reasoning.
No, I think the reason would be that the City of Boise and the Southwest Alliance both have pointed out that this property was intended to be commercial property, and that because it is not commercial property, it is incompatible with the intended use.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner?
just as a little rebuttal against that, I think with the storage unit that was in this area, it was a very similar situation. The only difference, obviously, besides like the scope of the project and everything like that, but the City of Boise also recommended denial of the storage unit one for the exact same reasoning. So from the justification point of view, given that being your justification, I don't know necessarily how fair that is, because to me, the only additional layer would be the letter from Ada County, or the Southwest Ada County Alliance, and obviously the other letters that were submitted. So I think if we do pursue a denial, I think it would be potentially in everyone's best interest to also be able to cite something else, just given prior precedent and prior things that we voted on within this standing board that everyone here has voted on.
My memory is not that good. So, Commissioner Birch, do you have any comments?
I can't remember how I voted. And by the way, I will point out that it's almost a declaration against interest, me wanting to not see residential go in there because I work for Albertsons. And so we like customers, and we're happy that we got those Paul's stores.
So, any other comments? I mean, I think I would counter that each property is unique.
That's fair.
And I think the reasons that there was that property had zero interest for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a different situation. So I think I could argue that this property is different than that property for a lot of unique reasons.
And I appreciate that.
So,
I think we all voted for it, and there was a lot of support from the neighborhood.
yeah, and I think the neighbors were totally supportive of that project. Better memories than mine. Commissioner Wickstrom, Commissioner Colson?
It's all been said.
So, are we all ready to vote? Okay. There's a motion on the floor to deny this application. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to say aye. And all those opposed, say aye.
Aye.
And so let the minutes reflect that, and I guess we technically need to, Commissioner Birch, if you could table it so that it could come forward to the next meeting with the paperwork. So we've got to table the paperwork to the next meeting.
Is that right, Brent?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Birch, the next public hearing is going to be on October 13th.
Okay. So technically what we do is we table it to October 13th
For revised findings, correct?
for revised findings.
Okay, so
We'll
do
just
I,
amend your motion by adding that.
okay, I do amend the motion that this be tabled to October 13th so the staff can revise findings.
And are you okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, and so that's been approved by Commissioner Wickstrom, who was the original person. So this motion has been denied, and then, or it's been moved that we have a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners of a denial. And this will give everybody lots of time to go back and refigure it out. So I think we're done with that. And our next agenda item is minutes. And I want to thank everybody for coming down tonight, and I want to thank everybody for their thoughtful discussions and thoughtful interactions. And I can share how painful it is to see things change around my neighborhood, since that is, I consider that kind of my neighborhood. So, thank you. Our next item is the minutes from August 11th. I can't do the motion, but I read the minutes and they look good. So if somebody can do a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Exton.
I would like to move to approve the minutes from the August
11th.
meeting. Thank you.
All those in, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Birch seconded that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, they're approved. And then we get to find out the cool stuff that happened at the Board of County Commissioner meeting last night.
It was a hoot.
It was a hoot. We can go watch it online if we want to.
Did it ever end?
It did.
Eventually. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, as you guys have already alluded to, the board's hearing last night was a fairly lengthy agenda. So there were a lot of items on the agenda. So the first item under old business was a time extension for a master site plan. And this was a board level time extension for an event center, which is the Lowe's Family Farmstead. They had done their project in 2 phases. So the first phase has already been done for about 3 years. And the second phase is basically kind of a pavilion type building. And so they need to have a time extension for that pavilion type building. And so the board had tabled this application from their August 10th public hearing for the applicant to provide them additional information. At the previous public hearing, there were complaints of people parking along Eagle Road, and the board wanted the applicant to provide additional information on parking, as the board is concerned that they didn't have enough parking on site. So the applicant did indicate that they have increased on-site parking since their last season to handle the additional crowds. And the board did approve the time extension. The second public hearing was an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of a conditional use permit for a cell tower. And this was the cell tower that was located at 5410 West Beacon Light Road in the RUT district. And this appeal was tabled from the board's July 13th, 2022 public hearing. And at that public hearing, the board had the public hearing remained open for written comments on some specific items that were identified by the board. And these items included for the applicant to further research and provide information regarding locating the proposed cell tower BLM property, for development services to hire a third-party consultant to review the application material submitted for the project, for development services staff to provide a map of all cell towers and carriers, as well as all existing proposed housing within a 5-mile radius, for the Ada County legal team to research the Telecommunications Act of 1996 to determine how wireless broadband is regulated, for the appellant to provide proof of diminished land values in the surrounding area resulting from the proposed cell tower, and for development services staff to research the City of Eagle's reasoning for recommending denial of the cell tower. So the county did hire a third-party consultant, Val Technologies, to review the application. And the consultant essentially indicated that this particular application or case needed a more comprehensive technical analysis to determine lack of coverage. And then he also mentioned that assumptions made by both the applicant and the appellant about technical aspects of the wireless facility and how it's best used to serve the community. And so the board kind of had a very good conversation with the consultant and obviously the applicant and the appellant. And the board had discussed tabling this application for the applicant to provide additional information as recommended by the consultant. Leon had brought up as an alternative that they could remand it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and have you evaluate it, since there's been additional information that's been added to the record, as the record's been augmented substantially since this body had heard the conditional use application. And so the board did vote to remand the application back to you for a new hearing based on the additional information that was submitted during the board's hearing, and to look at the report prepared by the new consultant and to look at the new drive study for the applicant to provide letters of co-location. Do you guys, I forgot to ask after the first one, do you guys have any questions on those two items, or?
So let me just make sure I understand. So there's this great big study that's been done, that's got a whole bunch of new information, and then it's sending back to us to make a decision again.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like that's like a
What
thank
was
you
our
for all the
decision
appeals
before?
that we've given them.
You guys have approved it.
So just for clarity, was this the one, because they all kind of blend together to me, was this the one where they were taking down a silo and then this was the one that was replacing it?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
On Floating Feather.
On Beacon Light. So this is north of Beacon Light, west of Linder.
Okay.
Yeah, because this was the one where one of the comments was that it was going to be near a new subdivision, and the developer didn't want it there because it would lower his property values of his brand new $1 million homes.
Okay.
So as a side note, that the consultant really provided a lot of really good information. I learned a lot just sitting through the hearing, and so I think that was a really good beneficial thing for the county, that consulting, because it really, in my perspective, it kind of shows a bit more technical information, and so it's really more hard data and hard facts of cell towers and how they work and how changing populations affect cell coverage. And so it was a really, I think, educational experience for me to hear that consultant testify at the public hearing. So
But we are looking forward to that educational experience.
So I do have a question for you
framing that.
with the consultant. So I will confess, I am not the expert on telecommunications at all. So when it comes back to us with the massive report and all the new information, will the consultant also be coming to that meeting as like a, let me walk you through it all? Or is it going to be more of a, here you go? I'm just curious.
I am
Like,
not
you'll
sure
be-
that. That's something maybe I would need to talk with, maybe Richard or
Okay.
Leon would maybe need to see if that's a possibility for the consultant to maybe, come to that public hearing when that hearing gets scheduled for you guys.
Okay.
That's a really good question. Thank you.
I have them every now and then.
And so our next items are kind of the new business items. So the first item for new business was a variance to allow a private road to intersect another private road. And this is a private that's located near Blacks Creek Road. And this application was tabled to the October 12th public hearing. Then our next item was project number 2022-00873 ZC-DA-V. And this was a zoning ordinance map amendment, development agreement, and variance to allow a non-conforming parcel created prior to January 1st, 1985 in the Rural Preservation District to be eligible for a building permit. And this is the property that's located on East Columbia Road, so this is kind of east of Micron. The commission, you had heard this application on June 23rd and had recommended approval of this application to the board. The board did find that the application did approve the variance. They found that the application didn't constitute a special right or privilege because there were other properties in the neighborhood which have homes on them that are less than 10 acres. Any questions on that one? And our next item was project number 2022-00800V-AC. And this was a variance for two proposed detached accessory structures to exceed the maximum height limitations for an accessory structure in the RUT district. And this was a property located at 3764 North Hope Valley Road, which is north of Beacon Light and west of Linder Roads. And staff had recommended approval of this application, and the variance will allow for the height of the accessory structure to exceed 24 feet. And the board did approve this variance. Any questions? And then the next item was project number 2006-00219 CPA-DAM and project number 2002022011329 VAC. And this was the proposed comprehensive plan text amendment, development agreement modification, and vacation to alter condition number 61 of the Dry Creek Ranches Plan Communities Development Agreement. And the proposed modification would change the requirement for Dry Creek Ranch to donate a school site to the West AS School District and instead allow the site to be utilized for any public school entity, including charter schools. And then there would be a vacation of Dry Creek Ranch subdivisions number 5, plat note number 18. And the property is located in the Dry Creek Ranch Planning Community. The commission, you had heard this application on August 11th. Both you and staff had recommended denial of the application. The applicant at the public hearing expressed frustration with the lack of commitment from the West A's School District about when the district will build a school in Dry Creek Ranch. The school district did provide correspondence that they still wanted the 7-acre site in Dry Creek Ranch. However, they didn't send a representative to the actual hearing to testify, so they just had given Connor an email along with, I think, the letter that you guys had received during the first public hearing. A number of Dry Creek Ranch residents basically expressed some displeasure with the school district. I think they were unhappy with the 45-minute school bus rides their kids have to take to get to Seven Oaks Elementary, both in the morning and in the afternoon. And then they also believed that school would foster a better sense of community within the Dry Creek Ranch community itself. The board did vote to approve the project, and based and the application was tabled to their October 12th public hearing for revised findings of fact and conclusions of law. And at the next hearing that the board has, they did want the applicant to weigh on 3 additional things that they had just some more questions about. The first item was the grades that the school will serve. The second was the geographic boundary for the charter school. And the third was the number of kids that would attend the school. And so any questions on that item? And then our next item was project number 2022-01484-S-PR-FP. And this was a preliminary plat, private road, and floodplain application for a residential subdivision consisting of 15 residential lots and 1 common lot. And this property is located at 2421 West Duck Alley Road. It contains 80 acres. The commission had heard this application on August 11th. Both you and staff had recommended approval of this application to the board. A few neighboring property owners did attend the board's public hearing. The neighbors are generally in favor of development and would like to develop their properties in the future. However, they had expressed some concerns to the board and asked for the application to be tabled, for them to meet and talk with the developer. Their main concern was really related to access on Duck Alley Road. They would like for the applicant to make the proposed private road public to provide a second means of access going west. And then one of the neighbors also expressed that they wanted the homes in the proposed subdivision to be fire sprinklered because that affects the number of homes that can maybe take access off of a dead-end road. And so that was also expressed as a concern as well. The board did table this application to their October 12th public hearing for the applicant to meet with the neighboring property owners to discuss some of those concerns. Any questions on that item? And their next item is project number 2022-01761-V. And this was a variance to construct an accessory structure within the required arterial road setbacks of the rural residential district. And this was a property that was located on kind of a local street, which is north of Columbia Road and west of Linder Road. The applicant basically was seeking the variance to place their shop garage 25 feet from the property line, whereas the setback for a property line along an arterial is 50 feet. No objections were raised to the variance, and the board did approve the variance. The next item was project number 2022-00910-ZC-DA-PBA, and this was a zoning ordinance map amendment, development agreement, and property boundary adjustment to rezone 18.38 acres from the rural residential district to the RUT district to create 2 legal parcels with a 5-acre minimum. And this property is located at 9500 and 9550 South 10 Mile Road at the corner of 10 Mile Road and Hubbard Road. The commission had heard this application on July 14th. Both staff and the commission had recommended approval of this application to the board. The project consists of a 0.89 acre parcel and an 18 acre parcel. The applicant wanted to increase the size of the 0.89 acre parcel through a property boundary adjustment to 5 acres. In order to do that, the property needed to be rezoned to the RUT district because because the RUT district allows for 5-acre lots. And the board did approve this application. Any questions on that one or the one before? The next item was project number 2022-01580 ZC-ZOA. And this was a zoning ordinance map and text amendment to reduce the CUNA area of city impact area by approximately 762 acres. And this is an area that's generally located south of 10 Mile Creek Road between the New York Canal and Cole Road. Both the commission and staff had recommended approval of this application to the board on July 28th, and the board voted to approve of the application. The next item is project number 2022-01520, and this -S, and this is a preliminary plat for a two-lot subdivision. The property is located at 5431 West Victory Road. It contains 12.24 acres. The commission had heard this application on August 11th, 2022, and both the commission and staff had recommended approval of this application to the board. There is no opposition to the application, and the board did approve the application. And then our next item and our last item was project number 2022-01223 S-PR. And this was a preliminary plat and private road extension for a 4-lot subdivision. The property is located kind of north of Overland Road and kind of south of the interstate. And the property contains 27.34 acres. The commission had heard this application on July 28th, and both the commission and staff had recommended approval of this application to the board. There was no opposition to the application, and the board did approve the application. And I'll stand for any questions that you guys may have.
Sounds like a lot.
It was.
Were you the person that was there?
There. Amelia and Eli were there as well, so we were here till about 9:45 last
Oh, my
night.
gosh.
Well done, though.
Yeah, that was pretty quick to get through that many
Yeah.
projects. Sounds good.
We got through the first 3 projects. It was what, like 6:20?
Yeah, we did pretty good.
So-
Actually, 9 if, more if you count all those other ones.
Oh, yeah, the 3 that we tabled.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We tabled those
My
other
foul
ones.
Those
swoop.
people would have been cooling their heels for a long time.
Yeah, that would have just been exhausting. So thank you for that, that plan. Appreciate it. Great job today, guys. That was, everybody said their piece, and I feel like everybody got a chance to say what they thought.
Again, it was nice to have a fair number of public comments, but it wasn't overwhelming.
Well, and everybody held their cool this time too. There wasn't
Yeah.
anybody really blowing up. I mean,
Nobody-
it was very nice and respectful of that other guy, the applicant, to just
Mhm.
be like, hey, this is, I've been to a lot, and this is, everybody kind of held their cool, which was
You know,
cool
it-
of him to say.
It was not an easy call to make because the project really looked like a nice project.
It's beautiful. I mean, and the problem is, I've lived out there almost my whole life, and it's right, the commercial, the numbers don't work because all the houses have been so, back in the 70s and 80s, my dad lives in an acre lot, 2 acres is what he has, and so it's so spread out that you look past there, and I can see where her numbers came in on that commercial side of things, that it wasn't making sense, and so.
You get small retail. I mean, like
Yeah, you'd have to be-
You got McDonald's down in
Yeah, it'd have to be a lot of small stuff to even get it to
Yeah.
be worth it, so it's gonna be tough, and it was what, with 3-2?
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like when it gets to the,
Right.
to the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be some things that make it better.
Yeah, and I think if they would get Boise on board, their whole thing is get Boise on board, if you did with Boise, or just take that frontage, that little bit of frontage, and do what, the small stores with people up above, and then the back do the same thing.
Mhm.
You could get the same density that they're looking for, but also get some of that commercial, so.
Yeah, like a little itty bitty.
We're probably not supposed to be talking about
I was
this.
going to say, our meeting should be over.
Our meeting should be over,
Oh,
so,
it's over, I thought it was over.
no. Well, we're not supposed to talk about things after the meeting are over even.
My bad.
So, we're gonna go ahead and, because all those were on the record, so if somebody wanted to watch it, they could see it, so.
Whoops.
I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. Oh, they weren't bad comments, they're comments that we made before, so. I call the meeting adjourned, and we'll go forward.